Passionate about jams and chutneys and you name it, but basically anything to do with food, I'm really on it, except strawberries. I'm really allergic to them. I got into jams because so much of what you can buy that's got a kind of, you know, rubbish label on it from a big supplier is what I would is what I would describe as mere. It doesn't do the fruit in it justice, and it's gloopy, and it tastes like sweets. It doesn't taste like fruit. So today, I'm going to show you what basic kit you need to lay your hands on before having a go yourself, tell you a little bit about the ology behind what makes jam work, and then talk you through how to make a batch of your very own raspberry jam. I know! Obviously, there are a gazillion different ways to make raspberry jam, a gazillion different recipes for raspberry jam on the internet. You know, but this is just one, and then you can go off-piste and do all sorts. Next slide, please. So, I've brought along with me what I think you'll definitely need, without which you're a bit buggered. So, do feel free to kind of, you know, come up a bit closer and get a bit nosy if you want. So, you definitely need a set of scales. I use digital ones, because I think they're more accurate. And you need a large pan. This is the smallest I'll use, because you put about a third full of ingredients, and then you need at least 2/3 for a rolling boil. Because tell me, burnt sugar on the top of the oven is a right arse to get off. So if it boils over, there will be much swearing, gnashing of teeth. So remember, no more than a third full of ingredients when you start. So decent sized pan, enamel, stainless, aluminium is fine. People kind of go, stop that, aluminium is fine. A wooden spoon, you want a fairly new one, not one that smells of pesto or onions or curry. You know, keep it, no, yeah. A small pan for sterilising your lids. I'll tell you how and why we do that later. Don't go for a non-stick one because you'll knacker it, because your lids are metal and they'll be bobbling around a bit. You need 2 rings on the hob and the oven at the same time. A Pyrex jug and a really spanking clean tea towel and a set of oven gloves. There you go. Scrupulously clean jars and lids, and they'll have to be sterilised. Something like that, or like that. Use great crap off my work surfaces. I can just put that into soak and then come back later, and the really big bits of jam when I was potting on it just come straight off. Otherwise, if you've got wooden work surfaces, you cry trying to scrub it off when it's set. One of these is great for cooling your jars on. Or, if you don't have one of those and you don't want to fork out, everybody's got a set of placemats their mum gave them, which has a cork back. That'll do. Okay, you need a small ceramic side plate. I'll tell you why later. And you'll need one of these and one of these. I'll tell you why later. And you'll need raspberries and granulated sugar. Don't start faffing around with other types of sugar because that's what you've got in the house. It has to be granulated. Next slide, please. Now, you don't need these. A jam thermometer is all very well. You can get one if you like. And you can get funnels if you like. I do use funnels. You don't have to. They're kind of helpful. I bought this one, spent quite a lot on it. It doesn't fit the jars. So there you go. This one costs £1.40 and it does. And, you know, pretty stuff, labels and totally, you know, fruity things on the top. You can go mad on jars. You can spend far more on a jar than the actual stuff that you put in it. But, you know, there you go. And that's pretty much it. Unless you live on instant potato and kebabs, you shouldn't really have to buy very much in a way people just have a go. Now I'm going to move on to the science a bit now. This is really where I say it's a cross between cookery, chemistry and alchemy. Anyone who's ever made gravy or white sauce kind of gets the idea. In cookery, one comes across various products used as thickening agents. Who can name me a thickening agent?
Corn flour.
Corn flour.
Pectin.
Yeah, okay. How about another thickening agent? It's all gone terribly quiet. Okay, who's heard of agar-agar? Right, okay. Power on. Right.
Dancing gum.
Now we're getting creative. Okay, fair enough. So I went on the internet and I looked up thickening agents, and about 3 hours later I stopped being sidetracked by various things and remembered why I was on the internet. And I thought I would be a bit, technical. And I saw that they fell into two distinct camps. We had proteins and we had polysaccharides. So we're just preserving with the latter, but I think it's good to differentiate. These are collagen, that's from skin, egg white, gelatin, mostly from bones. So these are animal-derived products. And polysaccharides, generally speaking, are starches, so arrowroot, tapioca, agar-agar, corn flour. Vegetable gums like guar gum, xanthan gum, and pectin. Now, these are plant-derived. There you go. So, this is where you say, cut to the chase, I'm not going to about jam. Alright, so the important thickening agent we're interested in is pectin, what you need to make jam. The next bit is a bit tricky. Please do stay with me. Pectin naturally occurs in some fruits. It's much higher in citrus fruits and apples, for instance, than other fruits. Some soft fruits like cherries and blackberries and strawberries have little pectin in them, so if you want to make jams and jellies out of them, you need something in it to help them along. There are two categories of pectin to choose from, high methoxylpectin and low methoxylpectin. High methoxylpectin needs acid, sugar and heat for it to work, and is most commonly used for traditional fruit preserves, and is the one I'm going to cover today. That's what we do in the UK mostly. Low methoxylpectin needs calcium present for the jelly process to work, makes it better for low or no sugar preserving. I'm mentioning it because I think I should. It's only proper enthusiasts who really care. But it's good to know when looking up recipes on the internet, because if you pick the wrong one as a beginner, it won't work and you'll get demoralised. Yeah, it's tricky to get the low methoxylpectin in this country. It's very popular in the US, and in Scandinavia they make freezer jam using it. If you pick a recipe that's got cups in it, it's probably American, and they're probably talking about low methoxylpectin, so just check it out. If it mentions a water bath, just find something else. That's what they do. Canning and stuff. That's a really expensive technical thing. You can't buy anything over here. So anything that you can buy here labelled pectin is high methoxyl. And I'm just going to call it pectin from now on because it's a mouthful, right? Okay. So you can buy pectin to add to fruits with a low amount of their own to make them set. This is usually liquid. Or powdered. There you go. You can make your own. It's a bit of an arse. You can make it really easy for yourself by buying jam sugar, which comes with pectin already added to it. It's quite expensive that way. For those that are interested, it's a heteropolysaccharide.
Of course.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. It's a long carbohydrate molecule joined together by glycosidic bonds, and here's a pretty picture of it. And daisy chaining molecule. Apple pectin is sold in stood over a hot boiling pot, stirring and getting splattered by hot jam till she cooked the bitterness out of it, and it finally cooked down to a thick consistency. That sounds A, really dull and time consuming, B, trashes the nutrient, and C, repeat that isn't pectin that I is shagging. Next. Change. That strawberries are the devil's fruit, are low in pectin and are a bit rubbish to make jam with at a first go. Raspberries, on the other hand, are robust and are pretty high in natural pectin and acid and are set with just sugar, which is marvellous. So now I just need to explain why. Why does fruit with just enough pectin and natural acid plus sugar in equal quantities, heated gently then boiled to buttery, equal delicious raspberry jam? What is a rolling boil anyway?
What's a rolling boil?
Yeah, what is a rolling boil? And what's the setting point? And why is that plate gone in the freezer? And that looks alarmingly like a rectal thermometer. So if you look at a jam thermometer, it says jam 104 degrees. This is the setting point for jam if you use a thermometer, which I rarely do. I use my eyes and a very cold plate. I'll explain in a minute. So 104 degrees, how does that work if water boils at 100 degrees? This is the part where I explain how pectin gels. It's really clever. So you're boiling your jam mixture, which is fruit pulp and juices and melted sugar, and there's pectin in the fruit. And pectin doesn't really like forming strands. It behaves a bit like magnets when you put the norths together. The way to make the molecules form strands is to get them close enough together that they have no choice but to stick. But how do you do that? You need to reduce the number of water molecules through evaporation, make a more concentrated sugar solution. What happens to the temperature when you reduce the water content? The boiling point goes up. Concentrated sugar solutions boil at a higher temperature than water. What happens to the jam consistency? It starts to gel. Once this magic thing has happened and you turn the heat off, this gel continues to thicken as the jam cools. I think that's pretty clever. So, now we get to the jam making bit. All the people who hate science can tune back in at this point. I'm really gutted that this isn't a practical. I wanted to bring a Bunsen burner in and do all sorts of zhizh, but alas no. But I have brought some jams with me, and there's raspberry there for you to get your chops around. Yeah. So, as has been mentioned, in order to make jam alchemy, you need fruit, sugar, acid, and pectin, and you also need heat for this particular method. I use a gas hob because I prefer the instant changes I can make, and my oven is electric. Work with what you've got, that's just my preferred setup. It's perfectly okay to reuse jars that you've collected, as long as the lids aren't rusty and the seal is tight. Ideally, they should be metal and have a plastic lining with a flat top, or be glass with a rubber seal and metal clips. That way, you can boil the lids or the rubber seal properly. Instant coffee jars that are plastic and go click, although we collect thousands and thousands of them, aren't very good. Now, remove pets from the kitchen. Put electronics and recipe books out of the way of accidental spillages of molten sugar. Jars tip, shit happens, I've done it. Wear a top you don't mind getting a bit splattered. And long sleeves is best because jam bites. Next slide, please. Oh, no, we've done this already. Oh no, back. Let me go back one. Thank you. Okay, right, to make this raspberry jam, you need equal weights of fruit and granulated sugar. This makes it an extra jam. Anything with more than 45% fruit qualifies as this. A sensible first batch would be 500 grams of each, as this doesn't need too big a pan. First, you need to turn the oven on to 150 degrees centigrade to sterilise your already spanking clean jars. Your jars need at least 5 minutes at 150 to be sterile. Put the lids in the pan, just cover them with some water, bring it to the boil and let them simmer. They also need 5 minutes. This can happen in the background while you get on with things. You also need to put a side plate in the freezer. You need to have your cooling rack and baking tray at the ready with your Pyrex jug and a jam funnel if you have one, which must be scrupulously clean. The oven gloves and tea towel that touch the jars must also be freshly laundered, as must you. Wash your hands. Put your fruits in the pan. If they're frozen, you should have let them thoroughly defrost at room temperature the night before. By the way, frozen fruit is completely fine. Raspberries works great frozen. Over a low heat, let the raspberries release their juices for about 10 minutes. The fruit will start to break down. Use a wooden spoon to help them a bit. Don't be violent, press gently. Don't let them boil. See how the liquid falls from the wooden spoon easily, like water. Add the granulated sugar, stirring as you do, making sure no pockets form, keeping it on a low heat. Move the mixture around with your wooden spoon, listening for the sugar dissolving. You can hear the scraping sound of the grains and see them on the spoon. Gradually they will disappear over a few minutes as you keep the mixture moving. Once you're sure it's all melted, you can whack the heat up. You want a rolling boil. This is when the mixture cascades in on itself from the outside to the inside, like a wave, continuously. Like that. That's the rolling boil. When the rolling boil starts in earnest, start watching the time. If there's a bit of froth on the top, this is normal. Add the knob of butter or a teaspoon of grapeseed oil to disperse it, and skim any excess off with a dessert spoon into a heat-proof bowl and discard it with your food waste. It sounds weird, but it's normal. Fruit does this. Your boil will be quite high on the sides, which is why you have to watch the volume you start with. But a good rolling boil is vital for the peptin to work. If you don't get a good rolling boil, you will get left with an over-syrupy mess, and you will get a big boo face at the end. After 4 minutes or so, give the mixture a stir and observe how the drips fall from the wooden spoon. Does it look different from before? Is it more viscous? Are they elongated? If not, wait another couple of minutes and try again. As soon as the drips start to cling to the spoon, you need to test for a set. Take the side plate from the freezer and drop a couple of drops of jam onto it. Wait a couple of seconds and then push it like that with your middle finger. Does it wrinkle? No? Not ready yet. Give it a stir, wait a minute or two and try again. Yes? Turn the heat off and you're ready to pot. Now, this is the bit has the potential to go quite badly wrong. So be cautious and concentrate on one thing at a time. Now is not the time to be trying to text a friend or hold a conversation. Boiling sugar will strip your skin off just like that. The important thing to remember to get a jam that will keep well is to put hot liquid in a hot jar and top it with a sterile lid. Nobody likes fairy jam for Christmas. Then a good vacuum will form whilst all are still hot. Rocket science, it ain't, but that way your jam will keep for a year. Wash your hands again. Drain your lids, leaving them in the pan. Remove the first 2 jars from the oven and place them on the baking tray. Put the funnel in the first jar, if you have a funnel. Fill your Pyrex jug with jam from the saucepan, using the jug like a scoop, like that. Half fill the first jar. It will bubble up in an alarming fashion, so don't overfill it at first. You want to leave about a 1/4 inch width at the top, so the jam doesn't touch the lid. Hold the filled jar with a tea towel and put on the lids firmly, and repeat like that until you've potted up everything. Put them on the cooling rack and step away. Please don't be tempted to tip them to check if they're setting, because that will wreck it and you won't get a lovely clear jam. Halfway through cooling, about half an hour or so later, check the lids are as tight on as they will go. Once fully cooled, label up, remembering to put the date on, otherwise you'll go, shit, when did I make that? Because you never remember. Store in a cool, dark, dry place until opened and in the fridge once broached. They'll keep for a year unopened and 3 months in the fridge once you start them, but they won't be around that long. So there you have it. I hope you do have a go. There's nothing quite like the I made that feeling. Next one. And I hope I've gone some way to remove the element of being mixed from your first forays into preserving. At any rate, you're now certified level 1 jamologists. Yeah.
Shall we have a little Q&A perhaps?
Oh.
2 minutes? What do you reckon? 2 minute Q&A?
Oh yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
Be gentle, be kind. Right, I'm going to sit on the step, not stand up and get off the twat. Yes.
How much is the jam in there?
Oh yes. You can purchase the jam from me or my lovely wife. We'll put together then. They're £3 each for 4 I will also fair. And I'll have many, many more. And chutneys. It's just jams to do.
So your raspberry jam over there is with vanilla, right?
My raspberry over there is raspberry with vanilla.
At what point would you add vanilla into the mixture? You only add the raspberry
Always
spray.
for later. Special for you.
I like strawberry jam. Should I tell my parents?
Yeah, you can do what you like with strawberry jam, just don't lick my face.
How many different types of jam would you make a year?
How many different types do I make in a year? Just jam or the whole shebang? The whole shebang, God, I've, in a year, about 45 different types. I've made about 350 jars this year. I reckon. Oh no, more. I made 200 just for Christmas. Oh God, I must have made about 500 jars this year. Holy shit, I made 500 jars of jam this year. It's a hobby, honest.
Are you seasonal?
Yes. I am, yes, I'm seasonal, and as much as I can, I use local and British produce. I have an allotment with my mum, and we've got an apple in the garden, and I've got an apple tree in the garden, I've got my green tomatoes. Yeah, I try and you know, all my jars are British made, 25% recycled glass. I try and use, all my sugar is British. You know, within reason I keep it as local as I can. I try and support local suppliers. You know, I get my fruit from, we go picking where we can. I've got some golden raspberries that we picked ourselves in Suffolk, you know, and Nunhead raspberries are from Nunhead blackberries from Nunhead Cemetery. You know, we scrapped ourselves over by an elderflower called this year from elders in Peckham. It was good fun. People walk past going, what are you doing? I'm making calls. We go, what's that? It was really hilarious. So yeah, good times.
Why did you get into jam?
I've made jam for a while. I got into jam more when I was recovering from cancer because I was at home quite a lot. And I was bored shitless. And my mum had a massive fruit glut. And it was just plums coming out of her ears. So I went, oh, I'll give some tea, I don't know, or some chai. And it turned out nice. I was like, oh, it might be quite good, oh, maybe I'm good at this. And actually, you know, and then it's a way of being creative. I used to sing for a living, and it's a different way of using my creative outlet that I really enjoy. Being, you know, going, oh, blueberry and bay leaf, why not? You know, you can't buy it in the shops. You make stuff, you know, golden raspberry, where can you buy that? Nowhere. So it's, you know, it's fun.
Well, buy it from the Butch Institute.
Quite, you can buy it from the Butch Institute, yeah. I have a Facebook page, like me, love me. Any more for any more? Or can I go and have a drink now?
You mentioned that, you said quite adamant that it has to be granulated sugar.
Oh, yes.
Why is that so important?
That's about clarity. If you use a very fine sugar, so if you use caster sugar, you don't get the clarity of the jam can be affected. If you look at preserving sugar, which you can buy but is very expensive, is really big grains. It's more like grains of rice, and they take a long time to dissolve. And that's the slow dissolve is to make the clarity in the jam. Some people like to have large pieces of sugar that they then put in the oven. So you heat your sugar before you put it in your jam. So you've got large pieces of jam which take not so long to dissolve, because they say in their alchemic way that gives them the clearest, most, you know, jewel-like jam. But everyone has their own little way. But I know that caster sugar dissolves too fast because it's so fine. I'll you know, in a chutney I'll use different sugars, but in a jam I'll only ever use granulated. An apple and mango jelly, thank you, darling.
Can you use brown sugar? Got to be
In a jam, I've never made a jam with a demerara. I don't know.
The plum and cinnamon should be good with that.
Well, it would be very dark. I think it might overpower the plum flavour, you see. The plum is a delicate flavour. I think it might be too robust. I don't know. I could try a small batch and you could compare and contrast. There you go.
Are you belonging to a jam society of any sort? Are you chatting to other jam makers online or anything?
No, I do. I look. I'm not a member of the WI or anything like that. Although I thought about it because there are lots of other people who are keen jam makers, but because of my strawberry allergy, I have to be really careful. I can't be around jam, ironically, other than my own, because I'm morbidly allergic to strawberries, so I have to carry an EpiPen. So to actually go to a jam fair, I don't think I could, because it's everywhere. Poor Kate, I'll never eat them. If I go over the weekend, she has a kind of strawberry fest and sits there naked and smears herself with them.
I think that's a show for another day. Okay, I've got a question.
Yeah.
After all this talk about sweets, are we ready to burn off some energy?
Yeah.
And get fit with Vicky Chalklin?
Yes.